The silent colony commander Elena Vasquez stared at the communication board in disbelief. The massive display showed dozens of green lights representing human colonies across the outer rim. But one light was conspicuously absent. Prosperity Station should have been glowing bright green, indicating normal communications. Instead, there was nothing but empty space on the star map. "Run the diagnostics again," Elena ordered, her voice steady despite the growing concern in her chest. She had been monitoring deep space communications for 15 years, and colonies simply did not go silent without reason. Prosperity Station housed over 1.8 million people on 3 different planets and dozens of space installations. It was one of humanity's most successful mining operations, extracting rare minerals that powered starships across human space. Lieutenant Torres, her communications specialist, worked frantically at his console. "Ma'am, all our equipment is functioning perfectly. The last transmission from Prosperity Station was received 47 hours ago." It was a routine mining report, nothing unusual. Since then, complete radio silence. Elena walked to the main viewer and pulled up Prosperity Station's file. The colony had been established 12 years ago when human explorers discovered an entire system rich in rare earth elements. The 3 planets were transformed from barren rocks into thriving worlds with massive cities, orbital refineries, and transport hubs. Families had built lives there. Children had been born there. It was as much a part of human civilization as Earth itself. "Have you tried emergency frequencies?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. "Every frequency, every backup channel, every emergency beacon," Torres replied. "Nothing. It's like the entire system just stopped existing." Elena made her decision. "Get me President Kim immediately. This needs to go to the highest level." The call connected within minutes. President Sarah Kim appeared on the screen, her face showing the stress of leading humanity's expanding civilization. Behind her, Elena could see the bustling activity of Earth's command center, where decisions affecting billions of people were made daily. "Commander Vasquez, I understand we have a situation with Prosperity Station." "Yes, Madam President." "The entire colony has been silent for 47 hours. This is completely unprecedented. Prosperity Station has redundant communication systems and emergency protocols. Even during the worst natural disasters, they would send some kind of signal." President Kim's expression grew grave. Prosperity Station was too important to lose. The rare minerals they produced were essential for building the advanced engines that allowed humanity to travel between stars. Without those resources, human expansion would grind to a halt. "What do you recommend, Commander?" "We need to send an investigation team immediately. I suggest using the fastest reconnaissance ship we have. If there's been some kind of accident or natural disaster, those people might need immediate help." "Approved. How long until a ship can reach them?" Elena checked the navigation charts. "The UES Pathfinder can be there in 18 hours using maximum engine power. Make it happen." "I want answers, Commander. 1.8 million people don't just disappear." The Pathfinder launched within 3 hours, carrying a full investigation team and emergency supplies. Elena remained at her post, monitoring their progress and hoping for the best while preparing for the worst. She had seen enough military service to know that when an entire colony went silent, the news was rarely good. 18 hours felt like 18 days. Elena barely left her station, surviving on coffee and determination. When the Pathfinder finally reached Prosperity Station's solar system, her heart sank at the first reports. "Command, This is Captain Morrison aboard the Pathfinder. We have reached Prosperity Station's coordinates. I need to report that we have found significant debris fields where the orbital installations should be. Elena's blood ran cold. Define significant, Captain. Ma'am, the orbital mining platforms, the space docks, the residential stations, they're all gone. We're seeing metal fragments, plastic debris, and what appears to be the remains of ships scattered across a wide area. What about the planets? There was a long pause before Captain Morrison's voice returned, filled with shock and anger. The surface cities show massive impact craters. Preliminary scans indicate the use of high-energy weapons. The population centers have been completely destroyed. Elena gripped her console so hard her knuckles turned white. Someone had attacked Prosperity Station. Someone had murdered 1.8 million innocent people. This was not an accident or a natural disaster. This was an act of war. Captain, do you see any survivors? Any escape pods? Any underground facilities that might have been spared? We're conducting full scans now, Commander. Wait, we're detecting a weak emergency beacon. It's coming from a single escape pod about 2 million kilometers from the main planet, moving to intercept. Alina immediately contacted President Kim with the devastating news. The president's face went pale as Alina described the destruction of humanity's most productive mining colony. Who would do this? President Kim asked, her voice filled with barely controlled rage. We don't know yet, Madame President. Captain Morrison is investigating a possible survivor. We should have more information soon. The wait for news from the escape pod seemed endless. Alina paced her command center while her staff worked quietly, all of them understanding the gravity of the situation. If someone was willing to destroy an entire human colony, Earth itself might be in danger. Finally, Captain Morrison's voice crackled through the speakers. Command, we have recovered one survivor from the escape pod. It's a 10-year-old boy named Marcus Chen. He's in medical care, but he's conscious and able to speak. You need to hear what he has to say. Alina activated the recording system. Put him through, Captain. A young voice, shaking with trauma but determined to speak, came through the communication system. My name is Marcus Chen. I lived on Prosperity Station with my mum and dad. They worked in the mining operations. 3 days ago, big ships came out of nowhere. They were different from any human ships I'd ever seen. They had these curved hulls and energy weapons that glowed purple. The boy paused, and Alina could hear him trying to control his emotions. They didn't try to talk to us first. They didn't ask us to surrender or leave. They just started shooting. The orbital stations exploded one by one. My dad put me in an escape pod and told me to hide behind the asteroid field. I watched them destroy everything. Every city, every ship, every place people lived. When it was over, they left. They didn't take anything. They just wanted to kill everyone. Alina felt a cold fury building in her chest. This was not a conquest or a resource grab. This was genocide. Pure and simple murder of innocent civilians, including children like Marcus. Marcus, did you see anything that might identify these aliens? Any symbols or markings on their ships? Yes, ma'am. They had these triangle symbols on their ships, and the ships themselves looked like crescents. My dad said they might be Zephyrians. He recognized them from military history books. Elena's heart stopped. The Zephyrian Empire was a known hostile species from the far edge of the galaxy. Human intelligence had tracked their expansion for decades, but they had never directly threatened human space. They controlled about 30 star systems and were known for their aggressive territorial behavior. But attacking Prosperity Station was an unprecedented escalation. Marcus, you're very brave for telling us this. We're going to make sure you're safe, and we're going to make sure the people who did this pay for their crimes. After the transmission ended, Alina immediately contacted Earth's military leadership. Within hours, emergency sessions were convened at the highest levels of government. The news of Prosperity Station's destruction sent shockwaves through human space. President Kim addressed the crisis with cold determination. Ladies and gentlemen, we face an act of unprovoked genocide. 1.8 million human beings, including entire families and children, have been murdered by the Zephyrian Empire. They attacked our people without warning, without negotiation, without mercy. This aggression cannot and will not be tolerated. Admiral James Rodriguez, the head of Earth's Deep Space Fleet, stood to address the assembly. Madam President, our intelligence indicates the Zephyrians used approximately 500 ships to destroy Prosperity Station. This represents a significant portion of their military capability, but not their entire fleet. Admiral, what are our options for response? Rodriguez activated a holographic display showing human military assets across the galaxy. We can mobilize every ship, every crew member, every weapon system humanity has built. Our industrial capacity far exceeds the... We can assemble a fleet that will ensure this never happens again. The decision was unanimous. For the first time in human history, every colony, every nation, every independent group agreed on a single course of action. The Zephyrians had united humanity in a way that centuries of politics never could. Within days, ships began arriving at Earth from across human space. Military vessels, converted civilian ships, mining barges equipped with weapons, transport ships loaded with supplies. The asteroid belts around Earth and Mars filled with vessels as humanity prepared for the largest military operation in its history. Alina watched the fleet assembly from her command post, now relocated to coordinate the massive logistical operation. 700,000 ships of every size and type gathered in Earth's solar system, crews numbered in the millions, all volunteers, who had heard about Prosperity Station and demanded the chance to seek justice. Young Marcus Chen, now safely recovered and staying with relatives on Earth, was brought to see the fleet preparation. Alina watched as his eyes widened at the sight of so many ships preparing to avenge his family and his world. "Are all these ships going to fight the bad aliens?" he asked. Alina knelt down to his level. "Yes, Marcus, every single one. We're going to make sure they can never hurt anyone else the way they hurt your people." The boy looked up at her with eyes far older than his 10 years. "My dad always said humans stick together." I guess he was right. As Alina looked out at the vast fleet assembling around Earth, she knew that Marcus's father had been absolutely right. The Zephyrians had made a fatal mistake. They had attacked humanity's children, and now they would face the consequences of that choice. Asterisk thunder across the stars. The largest fleet in galactic history departed Earth's solar system in a display of power that sent ripples across space itself. 700,000 ships moved in perfect formation, their hyperspace engines creating a light show visible from neighboring star systems. Admiral James Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship U.S. Retribution, watching as humanity's answer to genocide spread across the stars. The journey to Zephyrian space would take 6 days. During that time, the fleet maintained strict communication discipline while final preparations were made. Every ship knew its role, Every crew understood the mission. This was not a conquest or a territorial dispute. This was justice for 1.8 million murdered innocents. Captain Lisa Wang commanded the destroyer US Vengeance, one of the fastest ships in the human fleet. She had volunteered for this mission the moment she heard about Prosperity Station. Her own sister had lived on mining colonies, and the thought of families being slaughtered without warning filled her with cold determination. Captain, where receiving long-range communications from the Zephyrian Empire, her communications officer reported, "They're requesting dialogue." Lisa smiled grimly. After they murdered our people without a word, now they want to talk. Put it through. The alien voice that came through the translator was filled with what sounded like confusion and growing alarm. "Human fleet, this is High Command of the Zephyrian Empire. We wish to establish diplomatic communications to resolve any misunderstandings that may have occurred." Admiral Rodriguez's voice answered from the flagship, broadcast to the entire fleet and the Zephyrian forces. "This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Terran Defense Force. There has been no misunderstanding. You attacked and destroyed Prosperity Station, murdering 1.8 million innocent people, including children. We are here to deliver justice. Admiral, the action at Prosperity Station was a necessary security measure. That colony was established in space we consider part of our territorial sphere. We are prepared to offer compensation for any inconvenience." The silence that followed was more terrifying than any threat could have been. Lisa could feel the fury radiating from every human ship in the fleet. The aliens had just called the genocide of 1.8 million people an inconvenience and offered to pay money for their lives. Zephyrian High Command, Admiral Rodriguez, replied, his voice deadly calm, "You have just demonstrated exactly why this fleet exists. Surrender unconditionally, and submit to judgment for war crimes, or face the consequences of your actions." The alien response came back filled with what the translators identified as arrogance and dismissal. "Human Admiral, you face the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Our forces number in the thousands, our weapons are superior to yours, and our worlds are heavily defended. We suggest you withdraw before you suffer the same fate as your mining colony." That was the end of diplomatic communications. The Zephyrians had made their choice, just as they had made their choice when they attacked defenseless civilians. Now they would live with the consequences. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Zephyrian territory in a display of coordinated power that had never been seen in galactic warfare. 700,000 ships appeared simultaneously, forming battle groups that stretched across multiple star systems. The Zephyrians had prepared for a conventional military engagement. They had not prepared for this. The first Zephyrian system fell in less than 4 hours. The aliens had stationed 2,000 ships to defend their border, confident in their military superiority. They faced 50,000 human vessels that attacked from every direction at once. Zephyrian tactics were sophisticated and their weapons were indeed powerful. But tactics meant nothing when outnumbered 25 to 1. Captain Wang led her destroyer group against a Zephyrian heavy cruiser, the same type of ship that had bombarded Prosperity Station's cities. The alien vessel was sleek and deadly, its purple energy weapons carving through space with lethal precision. Under normal circumstances, it would have been a dangerous opponent. These were not normal circumstances. Wang's single destroyer was supported by 49 other human ships, all focusing their firepower on the enemy cruiser. The Zephyrian vessel lasted exactly 93 seconds before its hull cracked and its engines exploded. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Individual Zephyrian ships might be superior to individual human vessels, but the humans had brought so many ships that superiority became irrelevant. The border defense fleet was annihilated without inflicting significant casualties on the human forces. The human advance through Zephyrian space was systematic and unstoppable. Each system was surrounded by overwhelming force and given one opportunity to surrender. Most Zephyrian commanders chose to fight, confident in their training and technology. They learned that confidence meant nothing against the focused fury of an entire species. Admiral Rodriguez maintained strict rules of engagement. Zephyrian military forces were to be destroyed completely, but civilian populations were to be spared unless they offered resistance. The humans were here to eliminate the threat, not to commit genocide themselves. The distinction was lost on many Zephyrian civilians who had been told their military was invincible. Planet after planet surrendered as word spread of the human fleet's overwhelming power. Some worlds tried to negotiate, offering tribute or alliances. The human response was always the same: unconditional surrender and submission to judgment for war crimes. By the third day of the campaign, the Zephyrian Empire was in complete collapse. Their military had been designed to fight conventional wars against evenly matched opponents. They had no strategy for dealing with an enemy that brought 700,000 ships to every battle. Captain Wang found herself leading the assault on the Zephyrian military academy world of Kethma. The planet trained the Empire's future officers and was defended by some of their most experienced commanders. It should have been a difficult battle. Instead, it was over in 2 hours. The planet's orbital defenses were destroyed by massed human bombardment, and the defending fleet was swept away like debris before a hurricane. The Academy's commanders, who had taught generations of Zephyrian officers about military superiority, surrendered when they realized they faced more ships than their entire empire possessed. The final battle took place at the Zephyrian homeworld of Zephyr, where the Empire's remaining forces had gathered for a last stand. The planet was heavily fortified with orbital weapons platforms, shield generators, and the survivors of the Imperial fleet. Under normal circumstances, it would have been a fortress requiring months to capture. Admiral Rodriguez brought 200,000 ships to the assault. The battle lasted 6 hours, not because the Zephyrians fought effectively, but because it took that long for human forces to systematically destroy every military installation in the system. Lisa Wong was among the first human commanders to enter Zephyr's atmosphere. Her landing force secured the Imperial capital, while Zephyrian leaders huddled in their government bunkers, finally understanding the magnitude of their mistake. The formal surrender took place on the steps of the Zephyr Imperial Palace. The surviving members of the High Command, the same leaders who had ordered the destruction of Prosperity Station, knelt before Admiral Rodriguez as terms were dictated. "The Zephyrian Empire is hereby dissolved," Rodriguez announced, his words broadcast across the galaxy. "Your military forces are disbanded, your weapons confiscated, your government placed under human administration. You will spend the remainder of your existence under supervision, ensuring that you never again threaten innocent life." The Zephyrian High Commander, his pride broken by defeat, looked up at the human admiral. "Why do you not simply exterminate us as we did your colonists? Your power is absolute. You could erase our species from existence." Rodriguez looked down at the alien leader with contempt. "Because we are not like you. We do not murder innocents. We do not destroy entire populations. For the crime of existing in space we want. We are better than you, and that is why you lost." The aftermath of the campaign sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. Other species watched in amazement and growing alarm as humanity demonstrated the price of attacking human civilians. The campaign had lasted less than a week. 700,000 ships had crushed an entire empire that had dominated its region for centuries. Captain Wang stood on the observation deck of her destroyer as the human fleet began its return journey to Earth. Around her, the largest military force in galactic history maintained perfect formation, their mission complete. She thought about the families on Prosperity Station, the children like Marcus Chen who had lost everything to alien cruelty. Justice had been served, but the cost had been enormous. Humanity had mobilized its entire civilization for war, united every colony and nation behind a single goal. The message was clear to every species in the galaxy: attack human civilians at your own peril. The fleet's return to Earth was greeted with celebrations across human space. Marcus Chen, now living safely with his aunt's family, watched the victory parade from the steps of the memorial built for Prosperity Station's victims. Each of the 1.8 million names was carved in black stone, a reminder of the price of aggression against humanity. Admiral Rodriguez found the boy after the ceremonies ended. Marcus, your father and mother would be proud. Because of their sacrifice, because of what happened to your home, no other human colony will ever suffer the same fate. Marcus looked up at the Admiral with eyes that had seen too much for his age. Will the bad aliens ever come back? No, son, they won't. And if anyone else tries to hurt human people, they'll learn the same lesson the Zephyrians did. We protect our own. As the celebrations continued across human space, the galaxy had learned a new truth. Humanity might be young compared to other species, might be newcomers to the stars, but they possessed something that made them uniquely dangerous when threatened. They had the industrial capacity to build fleets numbering in the hundreds of thousands, the unity to mobilize their entire civilization when their people were threatened, and the determination to seek justice no matter the cost. The Zephyrian Empire had learned this lesson too late. Their civilization would spend the next 1,000 years under human supervision, a living reminder to the galaxy that some species did not forgive genocide. Prosperity Station's children had been avenged, and the stars themselves had witnessed humanity's promise: attack our innocent, and face the thunder of 700,000 ships seeking justice. The age of testing humanity's resolve was over. The galaxy had received its answer, written in fire and steel across the ruins of an empire that had mistaken human kindness for weakness. They would not make that mistake again.